Welcome and thanks for joining us. My guest today is Mike Hofer, an HR Value Advisor for Regulated Industries at SAP SuccessFactors. Mike, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Looking forward to it.
Of course. So this year has proven to be one quite unique and quite unprecedented for the federal government.
Yes.
So in your mind, from your perspective, what do you see as some of the best ways that agencies can approach their talent management strategies while at the same time dealing with these really uncertain times?
Yeah, this has definitely been the year of change in the federal government, and I think for the most part, the levels of change are varying between agencies. Right? There's some agencies that are losing a lot of people. There's a lot of agencies that are going through change. But some of the best things that we can do, I believe, is to focus on a few things. One would be to look at the candidate pipeline. And while we're in a hiring freeze, it's going to be critically important for the federal government to continue to manage that pipeline and keep it healthy, because we will not be here at the hiring freeze level forever. And so they'll want to continue to look at early talent. They'll want to continue to look at different programs to bring in internships, things like that. The other I would tell you is around succession and development. Succession and development will be critical because as we see all the changes happening across the federal government, the responsibilities have to fall to somebody, right? The job still has to happen. And so as jobs change or go away, those responsibilities fall down. And it's going to be important then to not only be able to report on, but have line of sight into the skills or the gaps that it has to create that succession plan. And then along those lines, I would tell you that absolutely the most critical thing that we have is for agencies to focus on upskilling and reskilling. And I say that because agencies, again, are having to do more with less. They're having to rethink how they do their jobs. And they have to have, again, line of sight or the ability to have a skills platform that supports either upskilling or reskilling existing talent, either in the agency they're in or the agency they're going to go to.
Thank you. Yeah, it seems like right now, because of the hiring freeze, there is maybe more of a focus on employee retention. So upskilling definitely makes sense there.
Yes.
Maybe do you have any further recommendations for agencies right now to really focus in on employee retention? What would you tell them?
I would say with retention, I would say continue to focus on the employee, the importance of civil service, the importance of their job, what it means for the taxpayers and for the government. It's a critical thing out there, and there's a lot of people that come to work every day passionate to do their jobs, and you want to be able to respect that. I would also say that being able to, from an agency perspective, is to report on something such as retention rates. I believe it was Gartner who said that 45% of employees who have left companies noted that they did not have the right development plan in place. So that's pretty significant. Companies should also be reporting on what we talked about earlier, proficiency gaps, skills gaps, to identify and have insights into where they're going to need to change and react. And then I would also say that internal mobility is absolutely critical, right? Whether it be in the agency itself or in other agencies, being able to identify opportunities where, rather than maybe getting rid of somebody, we can use some of that expertise either in their current agency or another one.
And that makes me think too of the employee experience, which is a little bit different from retention, but definitely tied to it. So I'm curious how technology comes into play in all of this, whether it's employee retention or the experience of the employee. What can agencies do to make sure that they have the right technology, and can that be an asset to the employee experience?
Yeah, so employee experience traditionally, at least within HCM, has been surveys to employees, right? So you would get employee sentiment, balance that against your operational data to have insights and a view into the workforce. As of late, we've seen a lot of innovative technologies kind of augment that as well. One of the ones that I see probably across, not just in our federal civilian and DoD market, but also in our commercial, is what we call a digital adoption platform. Digital adoption platform is a tool that's embedded within our solutions and other solutions. But what it does is it gives the opportunity for employees that as they're navigating things like creating a job position or I don't know what that job code is, it will actually prompt you what's unique to your agency and how to select it. And the reason that's critically important as we aggressively transform the government, both in process and technology, it will be critical that we have quick adoption, right? We're not going to have the people to support all the phone calls and all the support desks. We're going to need to provide inline capabilities, and that's where we see the digital adoption platform really taking wings. The other I would tell you is something that exists for SAP is our SAP Data Cloud Platform. And while that platform has the ability to obviously see everything under the umbrella for SAP, whether it be travel, time, HR, finance, whatever that is, and be able to use AI to manage it. The reason I bring it up is because the future of HR federal transformation is really going to be around working well with others. And so an example of that is being able to bring third-party data into and be able to report out of that. So imagine a day where, we can report on travel expenses, core HR, and then be able to bring in third-party data, either from our competitors or otherwise, and be able to give line of sight vision into that. And I think from an employee experience, an employer experience, it's really going to drive innovation and adoption as well. And then lastly, I would tell you that we need to continue to, as we're doing, invest in collaboration tools. So think Microsoft Teams, integrated within, again, the solution areas where it makes sense to increase collaboration amongst employees.
So where you have all these kind of opportunities to increase collaboration, as you said, or just adopt different types of technology or ways to use data, do you see any pain points that from agencies, especially this year, given that there's so much uncertainty? Are there areas where maybe they might be struggling to bring on some of this new technology?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think the pain points are anything new. I think that, it's traditionally old systems being supported by 40 years technology, being managed by manual processes and out-of-date policies. But what I would see, or what we are seeing, I guess I should say, is that kind of seeing a pause in how agencies are addressing that as aggressively as they were. I'm starting to see agencies kind of sit back and wait here because the OPM, as an example, they just recently had an industry day to come in and get vendors' thoughts on what it would be like to create efficiencies of scale, either through a shared service center for core HR and payroll. And SAP obviously is very excited for that opportunity and being able to support that in the mission of the OPM for centralizing that. And I believe, and I say that because that in itself is going to alleviate a lot of the pain points by centralizing operations, obviously. The other thing I would tell you is that our customers are focusing on the cloud a lot, leaning in there. And I spend a lot of time in particular with our customers around value and the value that not just the solution, but their investments make. So being able to, implement $1 million solution is great, but then how do you continue to measure the effectiveness of that? And that's what my role does, is I help customers do that through the life cycle of them being a customer.
That's a really good point. And one other piece of this too that I wanted to bring up is there's of course a lot of cybersecurity standards and other federal standards that agencies have to meet when they're adopting this new technology, for example, with FedRAMP. So how can agencies best streamline their HR processes while also making sure that they're meeting all of those requirements?
Well, it's a good question. So the first thing I would tell you is that as an agency, I would pay attention to what the commercial world is doing, right? There's so much innovation out there in technology. There's an example that I recently looked up. There's a company called Haystack. And it's interesting because they actually use AI and gamification for hiring cyber talent for companies. But they do this not just for creating pipeline for companies for cybersecurity talent. They do it for underserved communities. So think, helping candidates get through the pipeline that otherwise may not have been selected. There's a quote here I wrote down: "The world is full of brilliant minds that don't shine in interviews. Haystack is built to find them." And I just think that's so creative, because not only does it come at us again from an AI and innovation perspective, but more importantly, it hits underserved communities who may not have an access to those jobs in cybersecurity. The other thing that I would tell you is that one thing that I would stress is understanding the process within hiring. There's so many variations within the federal government around how to hire. I know OPM creates some pretty good standards on that, and that we follow that, but we also need to continue to measure at the agency level the efficiency and the effectiveness of the processes that we're using. And so we have agencies out there that are using our process mapping and analyst tools that sits over the top of the application and can actually tell you where the gaps are, both in technology and process, so that you can be reactive to that, and thereby, improving your hiring or your retention within cybersecurity.
Great. Well, Mike, we are almost out of time, but if you could just give one quick final point, what's one thing that you'd want our audience to take away from our conversation today?
I think the one point I would give is stay in the fight, be positive, stay focused. Things are changing, but a good partner comes beside you, and I believe that's what SAP does every day, is come next to our customers and really help them through this transition, but more importantly, be there for them on the other side, and that's what we're most excited about.
Great. Well, Mike, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank today's guest. Mike Hofer is an HR Value Advisor for Regulated Industries at SAP SuccessFactors. I'm Drew Friedman, and you're watching Federal News Network. Now we're going to go back to the studio for more on Workforce Reimagined.